colleagues, my name is Possible and I'll be your tutor for today. In our previous lecture, we discussed demand. I hope it makes sense. Whereby we said that demand is the willingness. That one we explain it, and from there we look at the demand function, and the demand function we look at the demand curve, and the demand curve from there we look at the demand shadow. So that the demand shadow is a tabular representation, and then we said that the demand function is a mathematical representation, and the demand curve is a graphical or diagrammatical representation, which is a curve. I hope it makes sense. Now today we are going to start with the concept of supply, which is microeconomics. We said that we have two invisible hands of the market, and these two invisible hands are the ones that control the market. Thereby we call them the market forces. So the market forces, we have demand and we have supply. And we are done with demand. We are not going to spend much time on supply, because whatsoever we have done under demand, the opposite is the supply. So for supply, we are going to speed up so that we can be done with it very soon. I hope it makes sense. So we are starting with the definition of supply. The definition of supply. We are saying that supply is the quantity of commodities that suppliers are willing. Now, under the concept of demand, we said that demand basically focuses on the buyers or the consumers or the customers. I hope it makes sense. But suppliers, we are going to look at we are going to look at suppliers or producers or sellers. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. Now, the sellers or the producers are the people who make good use of the input or the resources in the economy. They make good use of these resources. They put the resources together, the labor, land, capital, entrepreneurship, and those things. They put all of them together in order to give us a desired commodity. I hope it makes sense. Now, trust me, there is a difference between supply and stock. When you talk about stock, we are talking about the quantity of commodities in economy within a specified period of time. When we were doing demand, we differentiated demand from want. I hope it makes sense. Now, once we are working on supply, there is another concept that you have to understand, and that is the stock, as I've introduced to you. Stock is talking about the quantity of commodities in the market or on the market at a specified period of time. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. So the definition of supply is the quantity of commodities that suppliers or producers, I hope it makes sense, are willing. So you have seen that the word willing has come here again. Once you have explained it under the concept of demand, it still applies. And able to produce and supply at different prices at a period of time, all things being equal. I hope it makes sense. So we are saying that is the commodities that suppliers are willing, though the suppliers are willing, but are they able? Do they have the necessary resources to produce the commodity or to produce the commodity in question? I hope it makes sense. That is the ability. So the ability to produce and supply at different prices at a period of time. Now, different prices over here at a period of time. Different prices at a period of time. So we could see that commodities or the quantity that they will be producing is also contingent on prices. I hope it makes sense. That synopsis or conspectus was introduced when we were working under demand, the concept of demand. And the same thing still applies here. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. So we are saying that the ability, we are talking about whether the suppliers or the sellers or the producers will be able to get the necessary input or the resources needed in order to produce the goods and the services that are needed in the market. I hope it makes sense. That is the ability. Over here, the ability, we are not talking about the purchasing power. We are talking about the resources which are very scarce, and then bring the resources together in order to produce. So that is the definition for supply. So we are going to look at the law of supply. We are not going to spend much time here. The law of supply. We are saying that the law of supply is the opposite of demand. I hope it makes sense. So the higher the price of a good, the greater is the quantity supplied, or the higher the quantity supplied. It is English, so don't be confused about it. The higher the price of a good, the higher the quantity supplied, or the greater is the quantity supplied. And the lower the price of a good, the smaller is the quantity supplied, or the lower the quantity supplied. All other things being equal. So over here, we could see that it's the direct opposite of demand, the concept of demand. Now, we are saying that when price goes up here, quantity supply will also go up. And when price comes down, quantity supply will also comes down. I hope it makes sense. So, we could see that there is a positive relationship. Positive relationship. Unlike the negative relationship within the quantity supply, a quantity demanded and the price. I hope it makes sense. So under supply, there is a positive relationship. I hope it makes sense. If there is a positive relationship, and this one is the theory, with the transfer of knowledge from the concept of demand, let us draw the market, the demand, the supply shadow. Sorry, let us draw the supply shadow. So the supply shadow, we have price here. We have our price here, and we have our price here. Let us assume that here is 10 Ghana cedis, here is 8 Ghana cedis, here is 6 Ghana cedis, here is 4, and here is 0. Let me assume that we are working under market supply. I hope it makes sense. If you're able to understand the market supply, you can do the individual. I hope it makes sense. So here is quantity supply of commodity X, and here is quantity supply of commodity Y. When price is 10 Ghana cedis, they are willing to supply 1,000 units here. And these people are willing to supply 500 units. When the price came down to 80 Ghana cedis, these people are willing to supply 800 units. And then over here, 250. When the price came down to 6 Ghana cedis, they are willing to supply 600. And these people 200. When the price came down to 4 Ghana cedis, these people are willing to supply 400 units, and these people are 100. And when the price is 0, these people are willing to supply 50 units, and these people are not interested in supplying any units. So when you talk about market supply, you are saying that is the aggregate. It is a summation of the individual supply. I hope it makes sense. So we have two types of supply: individual supply and market supply. This one alone is individual supply, and this one is individual. When you put them together, you get what is called market supply. Market supply M. So this one plus this one give us 1,500. So put them together, we have 800 plus 250 will give us 1050 here. And then 600 plus 200 will give us 800 here. And then this one and this one will give us 500. So that is our supply schedule. So once we are done with the supply schedule, we are going to look at the supply curve. I hope it makes sense. We said that whatsoever we do, a theory that we do, we should be able to represent it with a model. So we are going straight to the supply curve. I hope it makes sense. Supply curve. Now listen to me. The demand curve per the law of demand, which shows the negative relationship. The demand curve depicts a negative relationship, but the supply curve, there's a positive relationship. So it is going to move in a positive direction. I hope it makes sense. So the supply curve is going to look like this. Here is quantity and here is P. Here is 0. And the supply curve is going to be like this. So this is S. I hope it makes sense. So that is the supply curve. That is the supply curve. It is in a positive direction. It can move from here 0 to here. It can move from here to here. Sometimes it can even be extended to negative. Negative. Don't be confused when you get negative. Sometimes it can even come here negative. Don't be confused. I hope it makes sense. Yes, it can be extended to the negative zone. So that is how it is. So that is supply curve. I hope it makes sense. Now, straight away from the supply curve, let us introduce the supply function. I hope it makes sense. Supply function, supply function. So supply function is also very, very important. So the supply function, this is supply curve, and here is the supply function. Supply function. Okay? We said that the function is the mathematical representation. I hope it makes sense. Now trust me, before I go to the supply function, look at the supply curve. Assuming you are using this one to draw here to plot the curve, we are going to plot price against the market supply. We are not going to plot price against quantity X and then this one by one. No, we are going to plot price against this. But provided it is one market, you're going to plot this one against this, or this one against this. But because we are having two individual supply, we are going to put them together and then plot it. All right, so we are going to plot. Look at it carefully. Here is price, and the price is 10, highest. So price is 10, and the quantity highest is 1,500. I hope it makes sense. And then we plot. I hope it makes sense. That's how it is. We sketch. Anyway, we sketch here. We don't use graph. Okay. Now here is the supply function, which is very, very important. You have to pay attention here. The supply function. Now supply function is giving us scale X equal to C plus DP. Don't be confused. The demand was QD equal to A minus BP. So we use A and the demand, and we use B. So we are continuing with it and the supply. That's why we are saying C and D. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. So that is how it is. So over here we put minus here. We have explained because of the negative relationship between price and quantity. But here we are using plus addition because of the positive relationship between quantity supply and the price. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. Now, have you understood this one? I told you that sometimes the supply curve will end here, which is the positive zone, or sometimes it can come into the negative zone. So the situation whereby it is coming into the negative zone, the supply function is going to be, so one is going to be negative C and then DP. So when you get either this or this, don't be confused. We can get sometimes negative quantity. I hope it makes sense. Don't be confused. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. So quantity supply could be positive C plus DP or negative C plus DP. This one could either be negative or positive. But over here there should be positive. It should be positive. Why? Because of the relationship. No should. It must be negative, positive. It must be positive because of the relationship between here and here. And I've already explained the component. This one is the autonomous supply. This one to be supplied when price is equal to 0. And it is, yes, it does not depend on the price. I hope it makes sense. Irrespective of the change in price, that's what suppliers are going to supply. Autonomous supply. And this one is the slope. When price changes, quantity supply will change by D. I have explained that one. I hope it makes sense. So that is the supply function. I hope it makes sense. So sometimes if provided you have been given two supply function and you want to plot them, you have to first find market supply. I hope it makes sense. You put this one together, this one plus this one, you get 2C, and then this one plus this one, you get 2DP. Someone is asking whether that if here is negative, how is it going to be? You are not supposed to worry at all. If here is negative, here will be 0, so we are going to get 2DP. I hope it makes sense. 2DP for the market supply. I hope it makes sense. Nice one. So that is how it is. In our next lecture, we are going to look at how to plot the supply curve when we are being given figures. I hope it makes sense. So we are going to inculcate figures into whatsoever we have done, and then we plot supply curve. Once again, my name is Alexander Osei, and I think I have a copy of my book here. Where is it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have a copy of the book here, Possible Series. Make sure to get a copy for yourself, and you are not going to regret. So that is the copy of my book, Possible Series. Okay, wherever you need it, pick the contact over there, and then we'll make sure to make an arrangement for that and give you a copy. So once again, my name is Possible, and God bless you. Make sure to subscribe, and click on the bell so that any video that we upload, you get a notification. Bye bye.